Hi, it's Lee Henkin here from Hyper Prospecting. So, in this short video, I'm going to be talking about a major problem a lot of B2B companies have with their client acquisition, and that problem is relying too heavily on referrals and word of mouth for all their new business. So, basically, this is a challenge that a lot of smaller B2B companies deal with, those kind of less than, in my experience, could be 20, 30 employees. By that stage, they're kind of after that. Usually they've got a bit of a better process in place for their client acquisition. But kind of in those early stages, there's just a really heavy reliance on referrals, and particularly word of mouth. Now, this is not like all bad. I mean, everyone loves referrals, word of mouth leads. They're all good. The issue here is that it becomes a ceiling eventually, and there is just a lack of stability around it. Like at a certain point, it kind of it almost like no longer serves its purpose up until a certain point. Okay, so it's just not a reliable business growth strategy. Like I said, not criticizing them in and of itself. Like we all like those kind of leads, but as a really reliable growth strategy, it's just not very effective. So basically, yeah, to fix that, you need to get out of it. All right. So there's really like there's a couple things that really hold founders and CEOs back in this situation. Okay. So the first thing that really holds them back is that they just don't have like a reliable or scalable acquisition system in general. Like it's literally just all comes down to referrals, word of mouth. The problem is it's just too random. Like you can't control timing, you can't predict anything with it. And yeah, and like eventually, there's going to be certain periods, and you'll know this if you're watching this and you rely on this. It's that eventually the pipeline becomes the first thing to break once like ops get overstretched, sales, delivery, hiring, that kind of thing. So it's a real problem when this is the only thing you rely on. Okay, and it's really what leads to that feast or famine cycle that those kind of smaller stage B2B companies often deal with, and the kind of conversations I've had with a lot of CEOs in that size range have told me before as well. Okay, so yeah, like they just don't have a scalable or controllable client acquisition system at all, and it's purely all just it's almost like luck to a point. And it's one of the main reasons why they struggle to break free of it, and it's one of the deadliest really positions to be in when it comes to your new client acquisition. Okay. Um, Another reason why they tend to get stuck in this cycle is a lot of CEOs and founders at this stage, they just don't know how to build an outbound system anyway. I mean, like, why would they? It's not something that they're being taught. A lot of them don't even kind of seek it out. I mean, some do. But they just don't know how to build. They don't have the expertise, the know-how. Most don't even have the time. So, and there's just so much involved with building out like an outbound system in terms of, what are the buying signals to be aware of? How do you even find and track them? How do you build the infrastructure at a technical level so it's not going to break and not going to destroy like everything you're doing? How do you write messaging that doesn't sound like spam, doesn't sound like a typical marketing broadcast email? How to even test properly, how to build databases of qualified prospects. So there's so much involved, and like yeah, it's not really any surprise why so many founders and CEOs at these companies of this size range just don't know where to begin, to be honest. And then if they do try it, it ends up becoming very random in many cases I've seen, just because there is so many moving parts within it, and they just don't know where or how to approach it piece by piece, so it all fits together nicely as part of a one puzzle. So yeah, it ends up being done randomly as a result. too many pieces of the puzzle are missing, and then just, I mean, it's never going to work like that, like with any system. I'd probably say another reason why they get stuck in this kind of referral word of mouth stage, and I'd say they're even don't know where to approach outbound from, comes down to, I'd almost call it like psychological friction. So, you sometimes see this on LinkedIn and stuff, like in posts where people, there'll be people who complain about cold outreach, getting DMs, getting cold emails, and then a lot of founders end up with this perception that it's like spam, they will look desperate, it's going to hurt their brand, we might annoy people, all these kind of, I guess, like negative thoughts about it, and it can just stop them from even considering, or maybe they do consider it, but then it's like because they see this stuff and they have these thoughts, it becomes like a psychological barrier to even going to the next step to try it out. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole video I could make on kind of unpacking these kind of psychological barriers behind it. But as a result, though, of these psychological barriers, I think a lot of founders and CEOs, they will just like kind of put outbound to the side as a result because they're worried, and then they'll just stay in the familiar territory they know, which is referrals and word of mouth leads and things like that. But and you can add networking and events and stuff like that to that as well. But again, like you're just stuck in the same ceiling and then you never get out of it. So I'd say this is actually a pretty big one that needs to be broken and addressed. So it's probably something for another video. Okay, so yeah, I'd say they're really kind of the three main things, main reasons why a lot of founders get stuck and in this kind of position where they're just relying on referrals and word of mouth, but it's not stable, it's not proactive, and it just becomes a real growth ceiling at a point. And the solution is to implement an outbound system done right. Okay, so that's how you're going to get out and break this kind of break this instability when it comes to your pipeline, and get a bit more control over your lead flow and things like that. So yeah, so they're the main reasons. So yeah, short and sweet video today, but hopefully that kind of gave you a bit of value still, give you a bit of an understanding of kind of the situation and where you're at if you're watching this and you're in that position now. So there is a way to fix it and there is a way to break free of it. So one of the things we do when we run campaigns is we always start with a 30-day validation sprint. That's to test traction, and rather than locking you into like, a 3 or 6 month kind of contract, we just ask you to commit for a 30-day validation sprint. If you're interested in that, learning more about how that sprint works, what it entails, and how we can tailor it specifically to your business, do get in touch, book a call, and we can go from there. Otherwise, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.